church history can certainly be done in a way that makes it boring, but I think people who really dive in and immerse themselves in church history often find it to be like a great story. You know, the old saying, truth is stranger than fiction. I think that's true. You couldn't make up the things that you read about in church history. It's fascinating. And I think getting lost in a really good story is one way to melt away cynicism. So I've seen a lot of people who go from an atheistic, nihilistic worldview to Christianity. Many times one of the influences along the way is the writings of J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, and not only their apologetics, but even their fiction. Because there's something about the book The Lord of the Rings, for example, that it's hard to account for the beauty and the glory that is conveyed in that book just within the limits of a nihilistic worldview. And so it starts to sort of loosen the tentacles, so to speak, of nihilism, just to read that story. And I think church history can function in a similar way. It's this fascinating story, but of course it's a true story, and it's a story that we are a part of. So one of the ways I think it can be, especially theological history specifically, can be exciting, is just seeing how much theology was a matter of life and death for people throughout church history. You think of Boethius in jail, waiting to be executed, and the way that he finds comfort in God's providence. Or you think of Martin Luther, who's just dreads and fears and hates God, and the way his whole universe turns when he understands justification. Or you think of Bonhoeffer and the way his doctrine of the church takes on its shape as he's struggling against the Nazis. It's hard to read these people and think of their theology as boring, because it's concerned with the deepest things of life and the deepest longings of the human heart. And another way that I found church history so fascinating is just seeing how much is out there. It's almost like going through the wardrobe into Narnia and discovering there's a whole world back there just waiting to be explored. I remember when I discovered how much there was to the early Eastern church, and I had no idea how much history that was back there that I just wasn't aware of growing up. But during the medieval era, there were many centuries during which Constantinople was the greatest city in Europe. And there's this whole world of emperors and theological disputes and missions efforts to India and China, and all this that's going on that many times we've lost contact with, and rediscovering that is incredibly exciting. So I think it's a pretty awesome thing to be able to read through church history and think, this is a part of my story. This is a part of my spiritual ancestry. And I think that we can do that as evangelicals.